fashionable. Fog scent. New fashion wear for men.
Good morning, you're watching the F&O Show on Bloomberg Quint Live, India's first digital live streaming business news service. I'm Navneet Saluja D'Souza.
Good morning, Navneet. I'm Agam Vakil. First, the headlines. Markets give up a strong start to trade in the negative. In the Nifty trades closer to the mark of 10,350. Metal stocks drag while IT index outperforms. And IT stocks like NIIT and Tech and Hexaware are the top F&O gainers with an addition of close to 10% in open interest for each. And Eros International is the top gainer on the Bombay Stock Exchange 500 after Reliance Industries gets set to buy a 5% stake in its parent Eros International PLC. And L&T Technology Services snaps its 5-day losing streak after CLSA includes the stock in its model portfolio.
All right, those are the top headlines at this hour, but let's also do a check as to what's happening with the markets right now. Well, every pullback is getting sold into. Today's the penultimate day for the February series, which has not been a great series, so to say, for the markets, where Nifty is down almost 6% and Bank Nifty has tumbled around 9% for the February series. So as we speak, we did open above the mark of 10,400, but Nifty could not sustain that level. 10,380 is the current level where it is trading. And remember, yesterday's closing came below the 100-day moving average, and currently Nifty is trading below that mark of 100 DMA of 10,398. Let's just pull up the rollover plate, because the rollovers this time around have been on the lower side if you compare them to the average rollovers of the last 3 months. So the Nifty rollover just about the same as yesterday, 31%, and Bank Nifty rollover, let's just do a check for that as well, whether there is any sort of pickup. All right, so the March series has seen a 10% build up when it comes to the rollover, so 22% as of now for Bank Nifty rollovers. The India VIX has cooled off in today's session. Last when I checked, it was trading, actually it opened with cuts of 4%, so it is off day's low now. So 16.7 is the mark where India VIX is currently trading. What is doing well in today's session? The IT pack continues to do well once again. So the Nifty IT is your top sectoral gainer, 1.3% higher for Nifty IT. Let's check what the options data is indicating. Well, there has been some call writing which is coming for the 10,450 and the 10,500 strikes as we speak. So almost between 4 to 8 lakh shares have been added between these strikes. But what is in focus? The 10,300 strike. I just want to remind our viewers, yesterday there was aggressive addition that was seen for the 10,300 put strike. So now this level becomes very, very crucial for the expiry, which is there tomorrow. Let's see if Nifty can sustain the mark of 10,300. What's the range that one is watching out for the March series? If you look at the OI concentration so far, it is quite wide. So 11,000 call and 10,000 put strikes are the one where maximum open interest concentration is so far. What are the FIs doing? Well, they've been on the right side of the trade, and we've been telling you that. And yesterday's data from the FIs was quite interesting. They built up a lot of short positions on the index futures. Almost about 22 to 23,000 contracts were added. Even if you look at the options data, they've bought more of puts and they've written more of calls. And on the index futures as well, they've shorted more of futures than they've created the long positions. So for the February series, they've not gone wrong at all, because they've been selling in the cash segment. We've seen the markets also falling, and they've been consistently creating short positions every day.
That's right, Navneet. Of course, it's pretty crucial considering the kind of participation that these foreign investors have had in our own markets. But let's also bring up the list of all the stocks which are moving in terms of the futures. And we have NIIT Technologies, Mindtree and Hexaware right at the top. All three stocks gaining, advancing by well over 3% for its underlying, and also gaining in terms of open interest, which means there is substantial amount of long building up when it comes to some of these mid-cap IT companies. Biocon, of course, on the losing end after we've had a Form 483 with some observations coming in from the US FDA on one of its units, and MRPL looking at 8.5% increase in open interest, whereas the underlying doesn't change at all. So that remains unchanged. But let's also pull up a list of all the stocks which are looking at a decline in open interest. And as we head towards expiry, a lot of these numbers will seem higher, considering there is a substantial amount of unwinding in the February futures. So we have Allahabad Bank, which is looking at about nearly 10% decline in OI. It's followed by IDBI Bank, Bharat Forge, IFCI, and Syndicate Bank. In fact, 3 public sector banks out there, which is looking at a substantial amount of unwinding. But I'd be keeping my eye on mid-cap IT stocks, which have been advancing in today's day of trade, Navneet. And this, perhaps to a certain extent, is to do with the Nasdaq guidance that we've seen yesterday.
Okay, yesterday was the day for the large cap ID stocks, and today the mid caps are doing well. Well, before we get our guest in the show, here's a reminder. If you have any queries in the futures and options market, do call us now on 022-4540-4141. You can also write to us on our social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, with us, BQ hashtag. Well, let's welcome our F&O experts for the day then. Mr. K. Subramanyam of Altamount Capital and Rahul Shah of Motilal Oswal are joining us. Good morning to both of you, and thanks a lot for joining us today on Bloomberg Quint. Rahul, let me come to you first. Every pullback that one has seen is getting sold into. We had a mild gap up opening. That's also, the Nifty is now off those opening levels at least. So the template remains same. You go short on every pullback. Would you concur with that?
I think the most important thing what we have to look at is in this one that BankX has corrected severely, and that's the spoiler in the entire Nifty. So my sense is, yes, the pullback could be used as a shorting opportunity, and every attempt, if you look at it, we fell with sync with the global markets or the US markets sliding down. When they recovered, we've just there only 0.5% plus minus, that's it. So my sense is, yes, the pullback should be used at shorting opportunities still also. And as you look at the open option data also, so which suggests that that Nifty could be in a range of 10,250 on a lower side, and on a higher side 10,440 or so.
All right, so that's Rahul's view coming in for you. Mr. Subramanyam, good morning. Are you also cautious when it comes to trading the benchmarks for now?
Well, very much I mirror Rahul's thoughts. Definitely, this is a very significant correction which we have seen in the last. The first one we are seeing in the last few months. With the expiry-wise, this must be heading towards one of the sharpest cuts, I think. And the Nifty Premium now has gone, consistently trading at a discount. And the Bank Nifty is definitely a cause of worry, and going to expiry tomorrow, I think we should see some more weakness coming about in that space. So broadly, I think any bounce back should be taken as an opportunity to, I think,
Okay, so that's the view coming in, at least on the benchmark indices. But the key question remains, how should one position in this sort of market if there is any sort of option strategy that can be deployed, considering there is expiry lined up for tomorrow? Well, let's shift our focus then to Options Corner then. Rahul, I'll come to you first. What's the option strategy for the day?
I think again, so my sense is BankX still looks weak. So we've seen the heavyweights correcting. So earlier, last couple of few series, in fact, we were looking at that private sector banks were holding on and they were outperforming BankX. And this fall also led by your PSU banks, and then again the private sector banks showing a lot of weakness. So my sense is heavyweights in Bank Nifty. So I think IndusInd, Yes Bank, Axis, ICICI, all of them individually looks weak. So my sense is I would buy Bank Nifty's put, which looks like that BankX can correct more from here. So I would buy 24,500 put for tomorrow's expiry, which is at 38. Keep a stop loss of 20 and target of 85.
But Rahul, you're also buying the Nifty call. That's a 10,400 call, if I'm not mistaken.
So my sense is that still that BankX is showing a weakness, but a lot of other stocks or sector in Nifty is showing some strength. And as we look at the option data and as well as the technical resistance, so I feel technically Nifty can halt at 10,330, from where again we can see some smart rally till 430, 10,430 or odd. So I'm just playing for that bounce back on a Nifty. So again, in that case, I would buy Nifty 10,400 call, which is at a 31, keep a stop loss of 22 and target of 50.
All right, and Mr. Subramanyam, how are you playing the benchmarks right now, considering your view on the indices?
Well, the outlook definitely still looks bearish, but given the fact that we are heading to expiry, and today I think a third or fourth day of broadly a decline, so we are giving some sort of covered strategy where we are recommending selling of Nifty futures, but also recommending buying of a 10,400 strike call, which I think is quoting at around 30. Keeping a target of 10,275, and we could keep recommending a stop loss of 10,450.
Okay, so that's the strategy of Mr. Subramanyam. He's suggesting to go short on Nifty futures, and to hedge that, he's saying buy the 10,400 call strike, where his target is somewhere about 10,275 for the index. Let's chat about the individual stock futures then, which are buzzing in today's session. As Agam highlighted, the mid-cap ID space is doing pretty well. In fact, I was just checking the top F&O gainers, the top 5 securities are actually the mid-cap ID stocks: NIT Tech, Mindtree, Hexaware, Tech Mahindra, and one is large cap in that list, HCL Technologies. All of them have seen substantial gains in today's session. Rahul, let me come to you first. If one were to take position in the mid-cap IT, or let's take the whole IT space, because of late even the large caps have been doing well on the charts, or in terms of trends, in terms of rollover in the IT pack, which stock is looking most attractive?
I think if you look at IT has been outperforming in terms of especially the mid-cap IT companies. So we saw some kind of sell-off in last couple of sessions, but today again we are seeing some momentum gathering in those stocks again. So my preference would be KPIT and NIT Tech in that space. So we saw that KPIT took a support at 192, and from there again the stock has bounced back. So KPIT could go again back to 220 or odds levels, keep a stop loss of 195. And again, second preference would be NIT Tech. So again, this stock has been one of the best good returns the stock has given in last 1 year. So my sense is again the stock has a good support at 770 or so. So keep a stop loss 770. Stock can rise to 835 or so.
Okay, so those are a bunch of mid-cap IT companies that you can keep an eye on. But the other stock that I do want to bring up is Biocon. Now, Biocon has had a few volatile days. Today, particularly, once again, on the back of news that we've had, excuse me, US FDA inspection leading to some observations in one of its plants, because of which the stock is down by as much as 2.6%. And rollover stand around 52%. There has been an increase in the Feb open interest as well as the March open interest. Mr. Subramanyam, is there any trade in Biocon right now towards the long or the short side, or would you avoid taking a position in this particular counter?
Well, given the fact that it has been a broad outperformer in the pharma sector, it has also been receiving in the last few days with overall market correction, and this sort of news flow obviously does not help matters. And it has formed now a very clear resistance levels of, I think, 600. So I think a short, maybe a blanket short may not be advocated, but if one way to hedge, I think maybe one could buy maybe a 570 strike put or somewhere nearby puts, which could give some sort of downside going to expiry. I think it could weaken further. We could see the stock slip all the way down to 540.
Okay, that's the view coming in on Biocon, which is under pressure after US FDA issued that Form 483. But besides that, what else is buzzing in today's session? And we've seen Fortis Healthcare. That's been in focus for the week. In fact, the stock for the week is up 13 to 14%. And I guess that's on back of news because the lenders were given permission by the court to sell the pledged shares of the promoters, which has been taking place in the last 2 to 3 sessions, because of which we've also seen the promoter stake coming down for Fortis. Mr. Subramanyam, I'll come back to you. This was a stock which was underperforming because of several issues, but now, at least for the week, we've seen the stock recovering nearly 13 to 14%. Do you see any trade around the mark of 155 or 156?
So given the volatility that we are seeing in this stock, very, very difficult to take a call. And I think even the option segment, of course, I'm not very sure. I don't think it's very liquid. So in this sort of volatility, options strategy is by far the best. I would not advocate any directional stock features buy or sell. But I think an option play would be advocated, but it depends upon liquidity, which I think is slightly on the lower side. So at the current juncture, I think it's clear about it.
Okay, so that's the view on Fortis Healthcare. Let's go across and start taking some viewer queries. And first one is on social media. The first one comes from Firoz Khan, who says that he is long on Apollo Tyres February futures at 249, and he wants to know whether he can roll over his position. Let's take a look at where the Apollo Tyres February futures are currently trading at. Firoz's entry point is 249, and it's currently trading at around it's underlying. It's currently trading at around 260. He is making a little bit of a profit right now, and he wants to know if he can roll over his position. Well, Rahul, can you help Firoz with Apollo Tyres?
I think interestingly, if you look at the sectoral correction, and the one sector which has outperformed is the tire sector. So we've seen the entire sector outperforming. So in that case, MRF, CIAT, Apollo. So we've seen very meager correction in the stocks, which is in sync with the Nifty if you look at it. So my sense again, Apollo is showing a good strength. The stock again, once it breaks 254 or so, I think you should keep a stop loss. If it breaks 254, then you should unwind this position and book and hold on for some time.
Well, there is some profit booking which has come in for Apollo Tyres. Remember, yesterday the stock had a good run of nearly 3.5 to 4%. The March futures are indicating some amount of open interest build-up as we speak. Let's just take some more queries which have come in on YouTube. Kimil Soni writes to us, and Kimil wants views on Aurobindo Pharma futures. If you could just pull up the stock of Aurobindo. I think today is the 6th straight session that the counter is trading in the red. So it's not had a good run, at least in the past few sessions. 1.3% lower for Aurobindo Pharma. Mr. Subramanyam, can Kimil look at taking any sort of positions for the March futures for Aurobindo Pharma?
Well, it was very tempting to go short on Aurobindo Pharma. It's been on a literal collapse, and we have seen some very steady downtrend. But I would be a bit wary because we have already seen, I think the stock is now into some sort of an oversold position, and going to expiry, we just might see some sort of bounce back coming about. So I'll probably wait for some bounce coming about. I think I would be more comfortable selling the stock close to maybe around 575 thereabouts. So wait for some bounce, but current juncture I would probably just wait and watch.
You should wait for some bounce on Aurobindo Pharma, but let's go across and take the next one. This one comes from Saloni Renminbi once again on YouTube, and she wants to know the prospects of the Bank Nifty strangle on 24,800 put and the 25,000 call. And I'm assuming that because she's playing for the expiry, she plans to go long on the Nifty strangle. So Rahul, I'll bring this question to you. Should she go ahead and long this specific strangle, which involves buying the 24,800 put and the 25,000 call?
My view is negative, so I would still advise not to. So my sense is that I think she should avoid this, or just buy up Bank Nifty puts and play the downside in the Bank Nifty.
Okay, actually she wants to know if this will end in the money. And well, considering the levels currently are at, as far as the Bank Nifty levels are concerned, currently trading at around 24,845.50. Well, we just had to wait and watch on that one. But what do we have next in the lead?
Well, let's try and see if we have more queries coming in. We've already taken Firoz's query. Samir Verma writes to us, who wants to know whether he can take a trade in any of the ID stocks for the March series. Well, we've already discussed ID stocks and we've taken views from Rahul. I'll go across to Mr. Subramanyam. For the March series, any IT stocks where you can recommend Samir to take any position?
Well, here again, I think though they are showing some sort of signs of strength, I think eventually even the leaders tend to give up some of the gains going to expiry. So if I were to pick up on some of the large caps, I think DCS has seen some pretty decent correction. So again, I would recommend some sort of an option strategy. Maybe one could do some sort of a bull spread for the March series. Maybe buy 29,000 strike call and sell 3,150 strike call. So some sort of bull spread would be in order, and I think we should see some modest recovery coming about in these IT counters, and they have shown quite a lot of resilience.
Okay, well, let's take the next query coming in, and this one is on Madhasan Sumi. Rohit Agarwal writes to us on Facebook asking whether or not he should book profits in the February futures, and he has had short positions Well, he's actually shorted Motherson Sumi at around 350. Can we take a look at where it's currently trading at 316 now? So he is sitting at substantial profits right now. Mr. Subramanyam, I'll come back to you. Should he book profits, or do you think there is more scope for Motherson Sumi to go further down from these levels?
Well, I think he has made decent profits, but if he's tempted to hold on to his position, maybe he should keep a stop loss of around 325 and hold on to the position. But I would definitely advise him to book profits at the current juncture.
Okay, book profits in Motherson Sumi. Remember, this counter has been weak post its earnings. So today also it's corrected nearly 3%. I'm just going to take one more query. It's come on Facebook. Sumit Ragani writes to us, and he wants to enter March call option of RBL Bank of 500 strike, and he is asking if it is advisable. I don't know, Sumit, how liquid is the March 500 call strike of RBL. Nevertheless, I'll go to Rahul to take his view. Rahul, would you advise him to buy the call option of 500 strike of RBL Bank for the March series?
I would avoid sell banking stocks. I think we have seen decent correction, so maybe 500. I don't think so. The stock has corrected and has broken the near-term technical levels of 472. So my sense is the next stop what the stock can go to is 450 or so. So my sense is I think still avoid buying an RBL call.
Okay, so well, you should avoid taking a position in that particular bank. But let's take our experts' trading strategies for today, and I'm going to go back to Rahul. Rahul, you have a long on Coal India and a short on Biocon. Can you take us through those?
Yeah, I think Biocon first. I think we've seen the entire pharma stocks, and pharma index underperforming, and we've seen a negative divergence in the index as well. After a long time, Biocon has been, sync with the pharma stocks. It was the only stock which was outperforming. So we've seen the major levels which has broken in Biocon. So one was 586, which has broken, and now it has come back to 560 or so level. So my sense is one can still go short on Biocon with a target of 540 and stop loss of 578. The second being Coal India long. So I feel that again it's at a support point, and the stock has done a reasonably outperformance vis-a-vis other stocks. So I would go long in coal with a stop loss of 305 and target of 321.
Okay, so that's one long and one short trading strategy from Rahul for the day. But Mr. Subramanyam, you've got an option strategy on Hindalco, and that seems to be the top loser in Nifty today.
Yeah, I'm recommending a bull spread, and Hindalco has seen some serious crack today, and actually it's a strike between 245 and 235, wherein I'm recommending buying for 245 strike put and sell off a 235 strike put. So the net cost comes to about 350, and maximum gain that one could get is 6.5 and stop loss of 2. And as far as Tata Global, the second one is a buy call on Tata Global, and here my sense is that closer to levels of 260. Going into expiry, this has been one of the stronger counters. In fact, the overall context, I think we could see some sort of buy coming or short covering coming over in Tata Global. So I think 270 strike call is quoting at around 1 rupee. Could be bought for a possible price up to maybe 253 rupees. But also recommending a stop loss. So of course, the cost price is quite minimal. Or could keep a stop loss of maybe 30%.
Okay, so that's Mr. Subramanyam's views. But there's one more stock which has been looking at a substantial increase in open interest, and that's Tata Motors DVR. Of course, we've seen a lot of traction in some of these stocks over the past, couple of weeks, largely on account of the volumes numbers that have come about for the Indian auto industry. The Tata Motors DVR for now, the spot isn't doing too much. It's down by as much as less than 1%. In fact, currently trading at 204. But we're looking at a substantial increase in the February open interest, up by as much as 7%, as well as the March open interest, where OI is up nearly 14%. So Rahul, if I may come to you on this one, do you have a view with respect to any target or stop loss in case anyone wants to trade towards the long side on Tata Motors DVR?
I think if you look at the Tata Motor DVR as well as the main have underperformed for quite some time, and entire rally the stock has underperformed. So if you look at again the Tata Motors DVR also, the stock has been in a range bound again and a very underperformance. So I would still avoid Tata Motor DVR, and stock definitely has got a support at 192 or so. So but shorting will not be advisable at this levels, but obviously longs also I would discourage to get into at this levels.
Okay, so avoid Tata Motors DVR is the call coming in from Rahul. And as we speak, markets are just about flat. Nifty is trading around the mark of 10,360 or thereabouts, which is clearly off day's high of 10,426. Well, we are running out of time. I would like to thank both our guests, Rahul as well as Mr. Subramanyam. Thanks a lot for joining us today and taking us through your views in the futures and options market and also helping our viewers with their query. Well, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of the F&O Show, but don't go anywhere. Stay tuned to Bloomberg Quint for more news and updates.